Hey, Jacob Diaz, thanks so much for coming on to the Quantum Health Connection podcast. We are so excited to have you for the third time here on the show. Woohoo.
Woo! I'm super excited to be here. Absolutely.
Yeah, we're super excited to have you here today. And we really want to talk about I was thinking like the lines of like pathogens and their purpose. I don't even know if you want to call them pathogens, but these so-called pathogens and their
Yeah.
purpose of what they're doing, right? So like I get a lot of clients who come to me and they're like, "Oh, it's the mold that's causing my illness. It's the H. pylori, it's the parasites, and how do we eradicate it and how do we get rid of it? Because once I get rid of the mold or I get rid of the H. pylori or I get rid of the parasites, everything is going to fall back into place and my health is going to be
Hmm.
perfect." And I'm sorry to say that that's not
It's
truly
not how it works.
how it works.
Word.
And I think that there's a purpose behind of why the body's innate intelligence is doing what it's doing. So that's really where I wanted to go with this
Yeah.
conversation today.
1,000%. I'm ready to go wherever you are. So,
Yeah, awesome, awesome.
so we want to do the mold first?
Let's go with mold. I think mold
Okay.
is like the one that I get the most, that is the cause of all the issues
Yeah.
for people.
Yeah. Everything. Fungus, fungus. So, I mean, for people that don't understand, one thing about mold is that it is a part, and we mentioned this in your podcasts before, it's a part of the pleomorphic cycle. Pleomorphism was really founded, adopted by a guy named Antoine Béchamp, who was the kind of the not they worked together, but not really. They were more rivals with Béchamp and Pasteur. A lot
Oh
of
yeah.
what Béchamp was saying was contradictory to what Pasteur was saying, and Béchamp actually did quality science controls, all that stuff, to show that germs were very much likely the result of a disease terrain rather than the cause of a disease terrain, and that germs would actively change from one species to another based upon the environment they were in. He found that the source of every germ was the microzyma, these tiny little ferments he saw in every living tissue, the blood, minerals, everything. And Pasteur postulated that germs were actually the cause rather than the reflection of the terrain. So you had two diametrically opposed paradigms. One was actually scientific, the other one relied on lies and propaganda, which is what Pasteur was all about. Same guy, Robert Koch, did the same stuff. But pleomorphism was built upon by Gaston Naessens, by Gunther Enderlein, a lot Roy Raymond Rife. A lot of people, dozens of people, really built upon pleomorphism, but it never really hit the mainstream because it destroys the pharmaceutical type of paradigm that germ theory proffers. So mold is a part of that cycle. So I'll share with you my screen in case people have a video, or for you guys just to really
Yeah, go on to
show.
our YouTube channels and you could watch it right there.
Exactly. All
Yeah.
right. So let me. Why is it?
And this is exciting because this, Jacob,
There we
is
go.
part of a new offering you have coming up, right? To help people
Yep.
get a foundation in in what you're teaching.
Exactly. This is like not, it's gonna be pretty long actually. A terrain program to. I'm taking all of my research I've done the last 7 years, making it into a bunch of slides, splitting each like thing into its own chapter, and then anybody can just read it or watch me explain what's happening, and just kind of get to the root really of terrain because it's a lot
Mhm.
of stuff. You got to learn a lot. I read a lot, and I just want to give it back to people. So that's what I'm doing. Hopefully it hits because it's a lot of information, but it's really cool. So this little chart here, aerobiosis, this is what pleomorphism used to be called. And right
Mhm.
here on the first hand here, the first little part, you see somatids. Those were the names of the microzyma. They've gone through a lot of different names by different researchers. Some people call them somatids, bions, endobionts, microzyma. I call them microzyma because that was their original name. So that's one over here. That's their phase. They're dormant in the body. They're literally everywhere. And just to show you how many there are, this is a live blood sample. So this is from a dark field microscope. You can see your red blood cells, you can see your white blood cells, your platelets right here. And then you see all these little tiny little microzyma. They're everywhere.
And
Mhm.
those are just something we're born with, or we
Those
acquire through the process
So
of
there were theories
inoculation.
that Béchamp would say that we acquired them from our mother,
Oh,
from the
okay.
father as well, but then also that we are just born with them. So
Okay.
what I like to believe is that these are the manifestation of the life principle, where these are kind of like life particles in a weird way. They
Mhm.
are literally found because if they were just innate to humans, only humans would have them. But every single living organism, every single natural anything, plant, minerals, water, soil, us, everything has these things. So it's
Mhm.
very likely these are what life is, really. So that's the somated part over here. And then think of how the terrain changes. You have stress, you have chronic inflammation, you have acute inflammation, you have toxicity in the environment, bad food, pH changes, whatever the case is, then you have the somatid changing into various bacterial forms. So that'll be from 2 to around 10. You have double forms, you have bacterial, rod forms, double spores, granular forms, all these things. And then, as again, the terrain changes, usually in this case, becoming more toxic, it'll change from bacteria to fungus. So that's when you see your yeasts, that's when you see your mycelial forms, and that's when you see your mold forms. So
Mhm.
it's really the process, it's a cycle. You have to reflect the terrain, or rather reflect the germ in the terrain. So instead of like for any terrain-based practitioner, look at what the germ is doing and maybe look at what type of germ is going on, but don't think that the germ is the cause of your issue because the germ only has one job. It's to return the body to homeostasis. It's to
Right.
eat the dead and dying tissue, eat the toxicity and then relieve it from the body via symptoms. That's what disease is. So if you
Relieve
allow,
it from the body via symptoms, right?
yeah,
So again, those symptoms are that healing
they are the
phase.
healing process.
And I
And
think that some people like they go, okay, so maybe it's a bacteria and then it goes into like the mold fungus, and that's the
yep.
part of the healing cycle, right? So I'm just making sure people understand that and they're with
Yes,
us, right? That's part of the healing cycles when you're in that mold fungal phase.
exactly.
Can people
And
get stuck there and then not complete the healing
yes,
cycle when they're like
exactly.
a
That's
CDR?
exactly what I was gonna say right here. So
Okay.
this little chart here, the homotoxicology chart,
Hmm.
this chart was made by Dr. Rekowig and Otto Warburg and Albert Spent Georgi.
Okay.
So right here you can see excretion, inflammation, deposition, impregnation, degeneration, and dedifferentiation. All these different phases. In the acute stages of disease, these are going to be your first two phases right here. So you can see the organ systems over here. So that's your skin, your nervous system, your hormone system, all that stuff. And then the diseases that are going to connect to that system. So these are all acute: acne, coughs, cold and flu-like symptoms, anything with an itis, that's inflammation. That's where you want your body to be because it's relieving itself of toxicity. That's where it rebalances. However, as you suppress, and that is where a lot of people get it wrong, is they rely on pharmaceuticals or they rely on surgeries, whatever the case is, to suppress the body. Your body then does not have the avenue to drain itself, so everything begins to clog up. So when things begin to clog up, they deposit right here. That's where you start to see chronic illness. Depositing leads to impregnation. If you keep doing the same thing basically over and over again, you're going to lead to dedifferentiation, which is a form of cancer.
This is
Dedif-
why healing acute illnesses correctly without suppressing them is so important.
exactly, I
Because
agree.
if you keep doing this and you keep suppressing those acute, this is why I tell parents if you can treat acute illnesses of your children with homeopathy or just in any non-suppressive way, you are going to set them up to avoid chronic disease later on in life because what's happening here is you're just pushing it, as all homeopaths know, and anybody who's in the
Hmm.
terrain-based theory or even naturopathy, you're just keep pushing that disease deeper and deeper into the body every time you suppress it, right? Which is exactly what you're saying here.
That's exactly 1000%.
Yeah.
It's a Herring's law of cure, right? For
Yep.
homeopathy, where
Mhm.
things will relieve themselves from the inside outside. So this
Correct.
is the same thing. It's the same exact philosophy. Is things will go from the most important organs to the least important organs. These are going to be symptoms that are going to be more chronic in nature from here, where your body is stuck and chronically inflamed. And as you open up the body, your symptoms will actually change. Things will get more acute, and that is a good thing because now you begin to drain. I've always said that, to make it really simple for people, it's kind of like a septic tank where you're supposed to pump a septic tank 2 to 5 years depending on how big your house is, and then if you don't pump it, things are going to blow up. So imagine like putting cement over your septic tank and just keeping everything clogged. What's going to happen? Things are going to overflow in the toilet. Things may blow up in the house, and all your crap is literally everywhere. So all your crap going everywhere is your cancer. That's
Yeah, that's a good
yeah,
analogy.
your
It really
tumors
is.
literally everywhere. Everything garbage. Your lymphatic system cannot drain properly. So when you actually adequately drain it, things flow well. And it's really simple. I think it's pretty easy to understand. But again, we've been fed this pharmaceutical paradigm where we must suppress. And another thing is too, and people may mention this because I said it, suppression does not work with natural medicines. Natural medicines do not, or rather, are not designed to suppress, nor are they designed to kill germs, like we talked about offline. Homeopathy, that is an energetic medicine. Homeopathy will match the symptom to the symptom, and allow the body and its life force, its vital force, to relieve itself. Same thing with herbals. I see this a lot. People want to claim that herbals and various extracts are antimicrobial. Where do you think these herbs came from, guys? They're from the soil. They have their own microbiome. The germs made them healthy and they made them super nutrient dense. And they have their own microbiome as well. So why do we think they're anti-germ when they're coming from the very manifestation of the germs in the earth? It's absolutely
Right.
ridiculous. So these things they're bringing in nutrition, they're bringing in antioxidants, they're bringing in the right energy, and your body relieves itself. So
Can I
calling,
give an
go
example?
ahead, go ahead.
I drink stinging nettles tea, right? And people will say that's
Yeah.
an antihistamine, but
Mhm.
really what it is, it's lots of nutrients that are in that plant that support the adrenals, that supports the body, so
Exactly.
that though that system works better. It's not necessarily like an antihistamine.
No,
It
not
just
at all.
gives the body the nutrition that it needs, right? Is that
Exactly.
exactly what you're
I
saying?
agree.
Yeah, and I
I have
see.
to say, sorry, Jacob, I was gonna
Go
say this
ahead.
is amazing. Your class looks amazing. I think I'm
Yes,
gonna take it because I'm like
me
so
too.
excited right now, and it just looks beautiful and it looks so powerful. And you've obviously studied your ass off, so it looks amazing.
Thank you.
But also, it just goes to show how much we've been brainwashed and hijacked by this
Mhm.
whole, what I would pretty much say is an evil agenda because we don't even know our bodies. Like we're so scared of our bodies. We don't trust our bodies. We outsource everything. We think symptoms are so bad and we just try to, suppress them. And that's creating all the problems. So, and including emotionally. But case in point, I did the herbal antimicrobials, like you were just mentioning,
Mhm.
like a long time ago, like in 2010, 12, and because I had SIBO and all the things. And
Yeah.
that never did anything for me. And I spent a lot of
Yeah.
money and went to the MD, who's a functional whatever,
Of
integrative.
course.
What did
Of
help
course.
is years of sunlight. So getting the
Hmm.
UV light on my gut, so I heal the terrain, my digestive issues are way better. So
Yeah.
that just goes to show you everything you're talking about is what
1000%.
illustrates that. Yeah.
And you mentioned it, Vanessa, in passing with the histamine stuff. That's something I get all the time too.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like histamine is the body creates it. It's not a bad guy. The body makes it so that your body can release itself via inflammation. So if you have
Mhm.
too much histamine, that just means you have a lot of chronic inflammation. That's all it means.
Yes. A
So
hundred
and
percent.
like there are connections. I talked about this in my podcast. I had my friend Kara on. She's a health birth counsel terrain based kind of thing, and she mentioned how a lot of her clients may come with candidiosis in their gut. And okay, we just saw the chart here. Why is there a lot of fungus proliferation in the gut? Because you have a lot of chronic disease,
Yeah.
chronic inflammation stuck in there. So fungus begins to eat the most toxic stuff. They're like they're like the tanks of the microbial community. They're the big boys.
It's like the
So
cleanup
they
crew,
will
right?
also, yeah, the cleanup crew. Every germ is a cleanup crew in its own way, but again,
Yeah.
the terrain will dictate which one will come in. So if there's a lot of garbage, these guys come in, they secrete their own waste products, they create histamine as well. And
Yeah.
that then will allow your body to what? Release. That it's all designed. So you want to kill your fungus and get rid of your histamine. Okay, now the crap can't get out. So now you're stuck. And then now you get cancer in 5 years and you're wondering why. It's like it's all connected.
Right.
So
And you're saying killing it with, say, Benadryl or, these
yeah,
kinds of things, right? Not with, yeah, natural things, right?
yeah,
We're talking about that.
exactly. If you're suppressing with pharmaceuticals, they are
Yep.
designed by principle to just suppress. Because
Yeah.
the second you stop taking them, it's gonna come back, and it's likely gonna
Yeah.
come back even stronger.
I was going to say it's going to come back as a deeper pathology,
That's a very
likely.
deeper, even like in the chart here, you would see like a bunch of the diseases to the lay person, they're not connected. But to
Hmm.
someone that's terrain based, you understand that the disease will change and go from without to within.
Yeah.
So again, that's just how it goes. So in this slide here, mold is not the problem. I put just a couple of bullet points that are just to help people really get their mindset that mold again is just a reflection of the terrain. So the first point is very simple, and I think people can logically think about this, is that when you're walking in a forest or you're hiking wherever you want to go, upstate New York, California, whatever, you have a lot of mold on trees. You have mildew on trees. You're
Hmm.
walking in their environment, and usually people actually feel a lot better and healthier coming home from a hike rather than sickly coming home from a hike. Doesn't make any sense, right? Because forests are literally the breeding ground for mold. You're
Right.
breathing in ridiculous amounts of mold every single day, not only in our modern life, but obviously outside in the environment. So there was one 2017 study done by the ASMs that showed that we inhale between 1,000 to 1 billion mold spores a day. So in Well, that tells you something right there. Like if we're breathing it in every single day, we're not sick. That probably means it's not the cause of disease. Dr. B.J. Palmer, the founder of chiropractic, if germ
Mm,
theory were true, we wouldn't be alive to see it. So if mold disease caused disease, rather, if mold caused disease, we wouldn't be alive to see it. The fact that we are
mhm.
exposed to it on a day-to-day basis tells you that it's very likely not the cause. It gets rid of dead organic matter. Again, that's like every single germ does. It converts decaying matter into nutrition, which is one of the very wonderful things germs do. They're able to take all of these super toxic substances or very what's the word I'm looking for? Difficult to secrete and digest substances and make them very simple for the body to deal with. And then
Mm.
anything that's left over, it'll go directly into the environment to be used as nutrition. That's exactly what they do. They do it in, and ask anybody that is a gardener. The most important factor of the soil is the microbial richness in the soil.
100%. And then
The,
we're the same thing. Our gut is
we're
our
the
own garden.
same thing. We are gardens in a
Yeah.
way.
Yeah.
So you saw that little dark field microscope of all those microzymas. Those are exactly in the soil too. The same thing. So you make sure your soil is filled with germs. Everything is gonna grow perfectly. We don't have a problem with food in America in terms of growing food and all that. What we have a problem is a lack of nutrition in what we grow because we're using so many different antimicrobials in our soil, on our plants. So things that are growing are really depleted, and our soil is simply depleted because we kill the germs. So it's the same exact principle with us. The more we are germ filled, the healthier we actually will be. So I mentioned this.
That's like your podcast. Germs are your
Germs are
friends.
friends.
I
Exactly.
literally say it, I say it to people
Nice.
all the time because I just
Exactly.
love that so much. Because
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I'm like, people like my husband will be like, oh, your hands are all dirty. You're in the dirt. I'm like, great. I'm like, that's great.
Great, exactly. I actually feel very clean when I have a lot of dirt on my hands. Funny enough, there was, and I mentioned this in passing, but there have been experiments done where they tried to cause disease with molds. And
Mm,
me, my friend Leah Dalton, a couple others have done research looking at this, and it simply doesn't exist. The
mm,
idea that mold has been shown to cause disease. And I asked these people, I asked the people in my comments that are like so emotionally charged with mold, or I asked the functional medicine doctors that swear that mold causes disease. I'm like, okay, show me the evidence. Show me the study. Show me what you got, please. Because logically speaking, it can't cause disease. But tell me what you think scientifically. There is nothing. So there was one experiment done with 8 participants. They sprayed 600,000 spores of two supposedly pathogenic molds for 3 days, 6 minutes at a time. Guess how many people got sick? None. Nobody got sick. Nobody developed any sort of disease or symptoms either. There have been a couple PMIDs, you can reference them over here, that found that mycotoxins, the ones that everyone talks about, don't
mhm,
do anything. They're too heavy to off gas into the air, funny enough. So this
mm,
idea that we can breathe them in and it can go in and cause disease has never been founded because they usually just sink to the bottom of the floor. In 2004, the IGT said that it is implausible for these mycotoxins to become disease causing agents. Another one found skin contact to mycotoxins posed zero risk. Just so many different things. Now, is there a connection between mold and disease? Yes. No one
mhm,
denies this. However, if mold is said to be the cause of disease, it must be the cause of disease in a scientific sense and be literally isolated. And this goes into the principles of virology, isolated directly from a sample or a culture, whatever it is, given to a person in an experimental setting and caused disease. That is
mm,
scientific. That is as easy as we can get. They can't do that. They fail every single time. So if there is an association there, we can acknowledge there may be associative claims, but we have to be very careful with saying something causes X because without a proper experimentation, we're just resorting to pseudoscientific claims. And that is a message to all of you functional medicine and naturopathic people out there that want to make these claims and you don't have any evidence. You're basically pseudoscientists, just like the germ theories, just like the germ theorists are. So this right here, I mentioned on the bottom two here, there are a lot of ridiculously toxic chemicals in our modern homes. We have of one JHM report in 2021, we have 55 of high concern and 400 plus chemicals in our average home every single day. What
mhm,
happens when there is a moisture issue? What happens? All of that garbage will begin to off gas into the air. And
mm,
then what does mold do? It comes in and starts to bioremediate the benzenes, the xylenes, the toluenes, the formaldehydes, all that
So
stuff.
it's trying to clean up
It's
again in the
trying to
environment.
clean up the off-gassing of the garbage into the air. So
Wow.
as someone who also who when I was this was in 2020, maybe 2019, during I had moved to my first apartment out when I left my parents with my brother. We lived in a basement and the basement had a lot of moisture issues. So I started having all these rashes.
Hmm.
I had these hallucinations, acute
Wow.
symptoms, coughing a lot, a strep throat that never left me, fever, and it lasted for about, let's say, 4 weeks. It was really intense for me. And then we found that there was obviously a lot of mold within the walls. But just looking at it, this was before I was very terrainy. I looked at the walls and I was like, man, this is a lot of wetness. There's a lot of decay here. My mind didn't go to the mold because it was obviously that it was eating something. What was going
Hmm.
on was there was a moisture issue now basically tripling or a thousandfold potentially making these toxins more toxic to my body. And that's what moisture does. And right here, there was the study that showed that toxicity in terms of chemicals when off gas become 1000% more toxic. So of course the mold's going to be like, food, let's get it. Let's eat this garbage because that's their role. They're supposed to eat this stuff and actually convert it into things that are very easy for the body to handle or nature to handle. So again, we take these tests that functional medicine docs or integrative doctors, naturopath doctors are going to give you, and that shows mycotoxins in your blood, that shows this in your blood, that in your blood. It really doesn't mean anything because again, that's associative. You maybe have some mycotoxins, which are simply metabolites from the mold. That's all it is. Every single germ, just like humans, we make poop. That's all it is. So these are poop. These are metabolites made by the germ when they're eating crap. So if you find that in your body, it's not really a cause for concern. If anything, that actually means that the environment is doing exactly what it needs to do by
Yeah.
making mold the primary microbe to eat your crap. But again,
Hmm.
they want to do all these things, a mold cleanse, a mycotoxin cleanse, a this, that, and a third, when all you had to do was get yourself a nice air filter, open up the window, fix the water damage, maybe use some low VOC paint, and that's all you got to do. Get rid of the water damage. That's all, and that will fix your
Yeah.
issue a
Get to the root
1000%.
cause, right?
Get to the root. You're not going to continually do your cleanses. And I had one client actually that she lived in a cabin, and cabins are great. I love cabins, love wood cabins. I sound like Trump. I love cabins. I love wood cabins. They're fantastic people. And then she was basically in an environment that the wood was rotting essentially. So, and there were obviously chemicals in there to seal the wood and all that. And that began a problem for her where her digestion got out of whack, her headaches, migraines, or potentially emotional issues even start to come up, acute symptoms. And I told her, yeah, we can do all these things, but if your entire house is essentially molding, you gotta move. You just simply gotta move. The house is ready to go back to the soil, really. So that's what she did, and then all her issues started to dissipate when she moved. So it's just like reference the environment, reference the terrain. Mold is an environmental issue. It is not something that's attacking you. It's trying to do a job. That's why you can eat moldy cheese and be perfectly fine because again, it's not the issue. That's why I can use something like isopathics, which are again, they're part of the homeopathy umbrella, where I'm giving people a 4x solution of penicillin or a 4x solution of Candida albicans or mucorasmosis. I'm using fungus, I'm using various molds to help people heal.
Now a 4X would actually still have
But
some of the
still
crude
have
form,
tiny little parts of it.
parts
Exactly.
of the crude form in it,
Yep,
right? But it
exactly.
still stimulates the body because it's like crude and energetic, so it still stimulates the body
Exactly.
to
And I,
do
and I
it.
tell people this. I'm like, hey, this has mold in it. And they're like, oh my God. But I'm like, trust me, you're going to be fine.
I had some
Yeah.
applesauce the other day that was I got from my farm, and
Yeah.
like I took the first bite. I was like, "Ooh, that's moldy." Like it tastes like I'm like, I'm not gonna die. Like
You're
it's
not
not gonna
going to die.
kill
And
me.
if
Like it
anything,
was
if you
like,
have some gut issues, that might be good for you. You know?
yeah, it's probably good. So and then I scraped off the rest, and I still ate that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Speaking of gut issues, I wanted to just everything you've said so far, Jacob, like if you could just like reframe it for us, like say someone's, oh my God, I have this candida or whatever it is, gut overgrowth, and I have this biofilm and I got to get rid of the biofilm. Like, how
Biofilm.
would you state that, whatever that is, how you see that circumstance through the lens of your training?
Absolutely. And this actually connects to the H. pylori discussion we can
Okay.
lead into, but specifically I've actually had a couple clients come to me with those with exactly what you just said, Heather, where I have candidiasis, candida overgrowth, which it's funny. Overgrowth is impossible because the body doesn't make mistakes, nor do the germs make mistakes. They're going to come
I
in
make mistakes.
with as many guys as they can to deal with the
Right.
issue. So again, as I said, you have a fungal problem in your stomach. Why do you have a fungal problem in your stomach? You have poor assimilation. You have a lack of ability to accept nutrients. You have poor stomach acid.
I was
You
going to
may
say stomach
Yes,
acid for
stomach acid
sure.
is really important.
Yeah.
The transmitting from your mouth to your gut is out of whack. There may be some surgical scars, potentially some heavy metal caking in there. Parasites is another one we can get into with fungus specifically. Fungus bioaccumulate heavy metals at a ridiculous amount. And now that I'm talking about it, I have right here, Candida albicans. Candida albicans is involved with nutrient absorption and the bioaccumulation of heavy metals. So the pleomorphic cycle over here, you can see these in these samples here. What was once a yeast form, which everyone has. Everyone is filled to the brim with yeast. We're walking bread rolls, people. Like literally, we have so much fungus in us. It's not funny. On top of our skin too. So this idea, again, that it's a pathogen is ridiculous. It's an ally. So this is a yeast form. As the pH changes, you can see here an upregulation is triggered by a pH change and a decrease in microflora. So your use of antibiotics, the food that you're eating, which isn't very nutritious or bioavailable, low energy, poor stomach acid, poor assimilation, all that stuff will lead to yeast becoming a pseudo hyphae. Then again, as things get worse, it becomes a hyphae form. There's another chart over here that kind of shows you the same stuff. Every single Candida species, albicans, glabrata, tropicalis, and paraphylysis. I can make isopathic remedies based off all of these different forms here. And as they change, this is an intermediate phase and the maturation phase. All of the, usually in candidiosis, you're going to see a maturation phase over here. Again, why? You likely have fermentable carbohydrates in your gut. You have the poor gut motility. You potentially have taken a bunch of or boatload of antibiotics when you were a kid, and your microflora is out of whack. There's so many different causes that can become this issue, but the key here is that looking at these issues a practitioner standpoint, this is not something I'm gonna try to kill the germs for. I'm not gonna try to give you an antifungal. I'm not gonna give you antibiotics because that just causes the issue to get worse. The very reason you have this issue is likely because you took a lot of antibiotics as a kid. So your gut never healed. There was one study that showed that one round of antibiotics, it could take about a year for your body to repair its gut lining
And
because
it's
of
not enough to just take a probiotic and
no,
think
it's
you're going to
not.
be okay.
Yeah, oh, let me just I'm good. No, you got
Yeah.
to do a
People think that.
whole
They're like,
thing.
oh, I'm going to go do a month of probiotics and I'm
Yeah,
going to be just
and
fine. And I'm like,
exactly. And
that's
that's
even if
exactly
people
what
think it causes an issue. And I'm like, wait, that's not going to work.
and Heather mentioned it, how you were able to heal a lot of your gut issues simply with the sunlight. And the sunlight, the microbes work lovely with the sunlight. They love the sun. That's one of their best friends. The UV light, the infrared light actually aids in the healing of the microbiome. And then potentially too, you can have the gut lining could have essentially leaky gut. You know, that can be a factor too, where things are leaking where they not supposed to be. Potentially, you can have the histamine issues, which is again not really a histamine issue. It's very likely you have stuck stuff in your gut, and things are getting worse acutely to get things out. Your liver can potentially be a little bit weakened, potentially through surgery or the I mentioned in a post recently, the connection between the belly button and pressure on the liver, which can then bring pressure from the lungs on top of the liver. And if the
Mm.
liver is not working well, what happens is it doesn't secrete the enzymes needed or the bile needed for your gut, and now you have a lot of gut issues and potentially pent up anger because liver is connected to anger, all from a structural issue because your belly button, since it was tied really tight, it's literally holding you down. So that there's
Wow.
so many different potential factors in these issues with candidiosis, but at a baseline, it's not the issue, it's not the problem. And it's the same thing with things like H. pylori. Same thing with things like parasites. I don't even like them. I call them, I was thinking the other day, what should I call them going forward? Maybe symprotites or symbiotites, something along the lines of where they are symbiotic.
Yeah.
H. pylori, for instance, I have like my little slides on the bottom, but below the camera here. But H. pylori has been known to be a normal constituent of the human microbiome and is found in
Yeah.
the vast majority of people's guts. And there are my H. pylori post was essentially just a bunch of different studies, essentially showing there's no evidence they've ever been able to isolate H. pylori and cause disease. And H. pylori is said to be caused of gastritis and various stomach ulcers, which is all, again, we're all talking about gastrointestinal issues. So depending on what it is, H. pylori, candida, you name it, SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, whatever it is, it's the same disease. It's the same thing. Your gut's out of whack. There's a lack of motility, there's a lack of nutrition, and structured water potentially too, where with Gerald Pollack, all the water in our bodies is structured. It's like a gel. And what does that gel do? It seals the gut. It seals the holes in the gut, and things don't begin to ferment. So, what are things you can do just as someone listening if you have gut issues? The first thing is drink structured water and things with structured water in them. Raw dairy, collagen is really good to help seal the gut. It almost acts like a glue. And then you can do things like raw honey and a lot of raw structured water with minerals. You can do the isopathics. You can do the probiotics too if you want to do that. Make sure it's a live probiotic and not a crappy one from a pill. Ferment your own foods, ferment your own vegetables, and your gut will start to literally repair itself from within to without. That is how you heal. You have to
Also
work
get
with
your
the
gut in sunlight, like Heather
and get,
said,
yeah,
and
yeah,
make
get
sure,
naked and go in the sun. Literally,
yeah,
that's like
and make
one of
sure
the
you're getting dark at night because you
yeah.
need that melatonin to help repair that gut lining every single night. That's
And there
such,
is a connection too with the, as you said, with the light, the connection between blue light and the microbiome, the connection
oh
with red
yeah.
light, making sure you're limiting your blue light exposure. I mean, I can't see, but right now I have the sun in my eyes, so I'm doing well. But having red light glasses potentially at night can be something very easy you can do to help stimulate the circadian rhythm, which will then help the gut. All of these things, not eating too late as well. With
Yes.
SIBO too, and you mentioned it, with SIBO, I see a lot of people have issues primarily with SIBO when they're eating a lot of carbohydrates, fermentable carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are not a problem for a lot of people as long as your body is digesting them and assimilating them. But if they begin to essentially kind of cake in the small intestine and things just start accumulating, then you start to have small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, which again necessitates that the bacteria are the problem. The bacterial overgrowth is a problem. No, it's not. The bacterial overgrowth is there because you have a lot of food particles that are lined on your gut that are just fermenting over time. They're not moving. Why? Low stomach acid, and what's the other one? Slow gut motility. That's all it is. Your gut is not allowed to get things out. So how can you stimulate more stomach acid? Probiotic rich foods, a lot of hydration with quality structured water, sunlight. You could potentially even do if you want, and I'm not against people doing like herbal cleanses for a time or castor packs or coffee enemas to just help stimulate your body getting things out. It is beneficial, but don't do it too much because then you could deplete your microbiome because you're flushing a lot. There's a lot of things
Mhm.
you can do, but I'm really more of a guy that recommends people change the way they eat. Eating a lot more fermented foods is really good, fermented vegetables. Staying away from the highly processed carbohydrates, which are very hard for your body to digest, and just eating real food. Eating real
Jacob, what would
food.
you say to somebody who says to you, I can't do the fermented foods?
I've seen that, and people have said that it's a I get histamine reactions right from fermented foods, and I would say you have to don't go in full and get a bowl of kimchi and eat it every day. Obviously,
Go
you
slow.
have your body go slow. Maybe a shot of raw milk a day, a spoonful of raw honey a day. There's nothing wrong with bringing more microbes to the area.
And tell people why the raw is better. I mean, we know, but we
Oh yeah, we know. So raw foods, they have or naturally contain the most nutrients, the most minerals, the digestive enzymes, the probiotics, everything you need in terms of nutrition and bioavailability is found in raw foods. I right now, I the only raw foods I eat currently, raw milk every single day, raw honey, and I want to get into the raw meat a little bit. I do. I eat a lot of steak every single day. I have at least one steak a day, and I cook it more so like medium rare. So that's we're getting there. We're getting there, and I love the taste. But I like the taste of cooked meat. I really do. But eating just raw bioavailable nutrition is it's your body just accepts it like that. It's super easy for your body to assimilate and absorb the nutrition. When you think about it, again, we're the only species on Earth that cooks our food. Only
Yeah, and raw egg yolks, same
raw egg
thing.
yolks, same thing.
Raw egg yolks is a really great one.
Raw
And even
oysters,
yeah,
another one.
yep.
Raw
And even
fish,
like
and everything.
your fats, cooking your fats, that denatures
Yes,
them as well. So
denaturing everything.
you have the fats not cooked as well. So all of
Yes.
that
And if
is
you're gonna cook for people that if you're gonna cook something, I would recommend low heat.
yep.
Something that doesn't denature too much. If you're gonna use beef tallow, maybe melt it down a bit, but don't burn it. Obviously, I try to eat raw dairy every single day, and if I use raw butter, I'm usually not gonna cook it. I'll put it on top of my food,
Yep.
and then the heat will then melt it a little bit, so I'm not denaturing it. But when you think about it, heat just denatures everything. When you go into a fire, what's going to happen? You're going to burn to death. So it's the same thing that's happening with our food. You're denaturing, even for vegetables too. For everything, you're denaturing. You're lessening the availability of the nutrition, primarily because you're killing the microbes that are naturally there. So for anyone that say I can't have fermented foods for a time, that's okay. You can do very small spurts of these microbial rich foods. It doesn't have to be fermented. It could just be rich in microbes. Start to do that, and your body will begin to heal. And then you can start bringing in more doses of these fermented foods if you want. But at a baseline, I've dealt with a lot of people with gut issues. It's the food that you're eating, it's the water quality, it's potentially the emotions that you're holding in your gut that you haven't processed properly, which is a huge thing. And of course, your environment. You're not getting enough sunlight. You're staying up till 3 a.m. on your phone. Like your gut's crap. And there's so many things you can do for that.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, when I find I get cases of people who are doing all the things right, they're doing the sunlight, they're eating the healthy diet. I'm like, okay, so then there's some sort of emotional component here
Of course.
that's keeping something. What are you not digesting emotionally that's keeping your gut struggling? And that's where you have to look to next, because I
Exactly.
find that very often.
And what is that? What is the gut connected to? That's like holding things in. That could be
Yep.
grief, that could be anxiety, that could be a trauma,
Mhm.
whatever, and you're just not allowed for your body to come out. And actually, since I mentioned it, there's a really cool picture of a hologram, and you guys are familiar with the Bigglesons, right? I'm assuming.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they have literally hundreds upon thousands of pictures of different holograms in people's blood. And I was able to get a bunch of them. And
Oh, cool.
now that I am, let's see here, there was one specifically with the stomach that looked like knots. Let's see here.
That
Boom,
makes sense.
boom, boom. No, bear with me, people watching.
It's
Okay, there we
okay.
go.
Yeah.
Knotted intestines over here. So I could do the slideshow to make it a little bigger. Um, right here you can see like this is the intestinal lining here, and then the knot over here. It kind of like
Mm.
twirls on itself. Same thing over here, a knot over here,
Mm.
twirling, knotted. So these were the intestines found in some people that were chronically ill and were dealing with very again chronic inflammation, chronic emotional toxicity, and the blood will then reflect that to the person looking at the blood as a knot. So when you think about it, when your emotions are tight, you're knotted. You cannot release because things are tight. So how does one get rid of those emotions? Of course, there's going to be the emotional component of talking about what happened and getting over it emotionally on that front, but also potentially body work too, because body work can release tissues that are literally holding into the energy that is that emotion. So body work like myofascial release, deep tissue massages, cranial osteopathy, chiropractic, acupuncture can help release the tissues and allow your body to process this emotion. On top of doing the emotional work, talking therapy, talking to your family, whatever that you want to do, and then the diet too. If your diet is good and your body's able to detoxify naturally, it'll be able to process the emotion a lot better than if you weren't.
Yeah,
So,
and homeopathy
and
too, and things like
homeopathy, yeah, the
yeah,
energy.
and things like biofield tuning, things like that,
Mm-hmm.
that all can help you process the emotions. Like I think those are really, really good tools as well.
Exactly. And it's I just felt like that was a cool image to just show
Yeah, it
people
was
like
awesome.
that.
We talk about that all the time with the knots in the fascia, and the knots in
Yeah,
the system. It's like the same thing. Really
it's
cool.
the same exact thing. Where
So
when
do
you
they do post pictures of blood and then those are gone? How do they?
Yeah, so when they get the picture of the blood, it's usually from one drop of blood from a patient. They'll look through the one drop, they'll find all of these different images, take
Mhm.
pictures of them, and then based off the image, they will formulate a protocol. So if it's like an intestine, for instance, they'll do some digestive enzymes and food stuff, some isopathics, some body work, and then they'll come back in like a month or two, they'll check the blood, and if it's gone, they did their job well. And you can actually see in real time when they had their practice, they would treat people there because their father, he was a doctor, so he can do all of these treatments. When he would get the right treatment and then recheck the blood a couple minutes later, you can see the image start to break down and actually begin to disappear. So it was like the body was no longer concerned about that part of the body because it was able to transfer all the energy to it and heal.
Mhm.
So that's the theory, and I use them. I use them like I went as a practitioner if I'm kind of stumped where we're doing all these things and people are like, oh, I'm not healing, I'm not healing. All right, let's check your blood. So I'll send it to them, they'll check their blood, and then they'll send it back to me. I'm like, oh, okay, that's why. Because you didn't tell me you had this, or you didn't tell me this, and now we have this in the blood. Why do we
Yeah.
have this? And then people start to cry, and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, and they're suppressing. It's all about that. So I
Wow.
mean, it's the same, and I have this little slide here about parasites, but literally, it is the same exact principle regardless of germ. H. pylori, Staphylococcus, Streptococcus, parasites, whatever. They're all there to eat the garbage. And I see a lot of people, and we talked about this actually this week with Liev and Alec and the whole community about how parasites are in the natural health space being framed as the bad guys for literally everything now. Literally
Oh, everything. Yeah, no,
every single
you
thing.
can, there's so much fear mongering online. It really like makes me so insane, like,
Yeah,
about it. And I just want to, like, I just like unfollow and I don't get a lot of that content anymore. But sometimes people will send me them and I'm like, oh my goodness, like,
yeah.
stop. It is
Do you
so
know
much
that
fear mongering.
MS, multiple sclerosis, is a parasite?
Yeah, I
What?
heard, yeah, I think I've seen
Yes.
that one. Yep.
Yeah, I'm like, what? And I looked into it,
Cancer
and
is a parasite. Everything's a
yeah,
parasite.
cancer's a parasite,
Yeah.
yada yada yada. And the only
It's so
reason,
ironic, you guys, because then they show the pictures of all these. It's nasty and disgusting. But look, I expelled all these. These were the problem. No, those actually were cleaning stuff up, and now they've done their job, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, they're cleaning
exactly.
the heavy metals. They're cleaning the deuterium, which is huge,
Hmm.
So it's like, oh my
And
goodness.
like so the with MS specifically, I'm like, okay, so you this doctor or these doctors will look at the patients that with MS and they'll check their nerves and they'll check their cerebrospinal fluid or whatever the case is, and they'll see parasites. They'll see these little worms there. They're walking around, and they're like, oh, that must mean that that MS is caused by a parasite. That's literally all they do. It's all associative. That's all
Yeah.
it is. It's like, okay, there's a building on fire, and then there's a guy walking with his little baggie of groceries walking past it. Oh, he must be the guy who let the building on fire.
Like
What?
the
What type?
cholesterol with the
Yeah,
fireman, like
exactly.
the
What
same
type of
thing.
logic are we doing here? And the
Yeah.
same people with cancer. We go into the cancer biopsies or whatever, and we see the tumors, and then we see these little worms in the tumors, and they're like, oh my God, cancer is a parasite.
It's
Why?
honestly, it's just low cellular voltage.
It's just a
Because
little. It's just dumb. It's just
it,
super
yeah,
dumb.
but right, do you know, like, I don't know, I'm sure you know Dr. Jerry Tennant's work, right? It's like,
Yes, yes, the
yeah, it's
voltage
like
and yeah,
it's low voltage. Like you don't have enough energy, right, to
low
do what you need
vitality. Yeah,
to do.
and
Yeah.
funny because I have this little thing. I just downloaded it, but like the healing and the voltage here,
Yeah.
this chart over here,
Uh-huh.
the
Perfect.
lesser voltage you have, the more disease you will be. And
Yep.
what is the conductor of voltage in your body? It's the easy water that actually creates the electrical flow
You got it.
via the sunlight.
Hmm.
Oh, it's almost like we're batteries and we accept everything, right? So if you have low voltage, a lot of toxicity, what's going to happen? A lot of accumulation of garbage. The parasites will come in from the pleomorphic cycle and start to eat that crap up because they can bioaccumulate a lot of stuff. That's why, specifically in the waters, you see where people dump a lot of garbage and heavy metals in the water. Fish will eat that and they're exposed to it. And then when the bear comes in to eat the fish, it has a parasite because the parasite was in the fish eating all the heavy metals. So it's just a process. And I have all of these different diseases here from let's say it was a malaria, and actually it's funny because the word malaria, I think it was an Italian word, or at the very least it's a Latin word. Mal air. It comes from
Uh,
mal air, which means bad air. So the answer to the disease was actually in the name. These people
mm,
were breathing in garbage air, a lot of accumulation of toxicity, specifically in tropical environments. You have a lot of heat, a lot of stagnant water, a lot of
mm,
like just decaying water, and it gets when it gets hot, it off gases a lot of different compounds. So you start to breathe that in, you start to get sick, and then you want to blame the parasite. When in actuality, the guy that did research on malaria, I think his name was it Ronald Ross? I think I have it here. Yeah,
mm.
Ronald Ross. He did these experiments and found that yeah, these structures are kind of ubiquitous. They're found in a lot of people, and I don't know if they're actually the cause of disease or not. Yet this is the guy that we claim is showing the cause of malaria to be a parasite. So this principle is literally found in every single parasitic disease where it's just claiming and claiming and claiming. I'm not against the belief that Hellman's species, the specific wormy guys, that those exist. Those definitely exist, but they're reacting to the terrain just like fungus are, just like bacteria are. The other parasites that are protozoan, the microscopic ones, the ones that they look in the
Mhm.
blood and they see these things, those very likely don't exist.
You're talking
The,
about amoebic ones,
yeah,
like dying to be
I was told
exactly.
I had protozoa once before, many years
the
ago.
the reason being is the way they have to get to the point to able to see these things
Hmm.
is by doing a lot of things to the cells, to the
right.
samples,
Oh
and they're
yeah.
just seeing these tiny little stains. They use
Yeah.
dyes, they use the heavy metals, they use the stainings, and then it's actually common knowledge that these protozoans are commonly thought to be, or rather conflated to be, and you can see here, bubbles, bacteria, yeast, algae, dirt, red blood cells, fat globules, necrotic debris.
You know,
phagocytic debris, everything.
it just frustrates me so much because, like, back in the day when I really originally got sick, I went to like functional medicine and all these people,
Yeah.
right? Because I didn't know better, right? I mean, it's better than going to allopathic, right? But
Oh yeah,
at
it
least
is better
at
a
least I
little bit.
thought so. I'm not so sure sometimes now. And, and you go, drop your poop off, and they send it over, and they tell you come back, and you got parasites, which is protozoa, and then you're like, it's stressful. You're like, oh my God, I have this thing. I've got to get rid of it. Like, this is the cause of my disease. And then you're
Yeah.
doing all these things to try to get rid of these parasites and da 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 da. And meanwhile, it doesn't even exist. It's just like a
No,
stain. It's
it's
like a
just a
bubble.
stained little bubble globule on the
All that
sample.
stress for nothing. It's like,
Exactly.
uh,
And yeah, so I'm not against the belief that obviously the macroscopic ones, the big ones, the worms, they definitely exist, but they're not parasitic. They're
yeah.
symbiotic. Symbiotites, we'll call them that going forward, symbiotites or whatever. Like they are just reflecting the terrain well. That's all they do. And they're again, their main job, they love heavy metals. So if you have a lot of vaccines, you're eating a lot of garbage food, you're eating meat that has been just treated badly, or they're fed a lot of garbage, the chickens, for instance, whatever the case is, potentially there's a lot of heavy metal buildup. And then you're gonna take all that into your gut. What's gonna happen? It's gonna accumulate, and then potentially too, the connection between MS is the vaccines. You're injecting a lot of these things which contain a lot of heavy metals. It's not up for debate. These things have mercuries. These things have aluminum. The COVID vaccine supposedly had graphene, had a various different heavy metals in there. So where are the heavy metals going? They're attracted to your neurological system because it's electrically conductive. So they start to cake the electrical system. So the worms come in to eat that off of the nerves and the electrical system. But then the doctor does your little sample and they see, oh my God, the parasite is on your nervous system and therefore it must be the cause of your MS. When in
Again,
actuality, it's like, no.
it's trying to help you. It's
It's
trying to
trying.
help
It's
you.
there. It's there to help you. And when you get to the roots, when you do your, potentially your heavy metal detox or your fasting or whatever the case is, and your body can process these things, the worm will go away. And if you want to do a parasite cleanse, just know it's not a parasite cleanse. It's an herbal cleanse because you're using all these different herbs, burdock root,
Yeah.
cleavers, oregano, whatever it is, binders. You're getting all the garbage and you're pushing it out with a lot of nutrition too. So you start to pass these worms that are like big in your stool, and you're like, oh my God, I feel so much better because I got rid of the worm. No, you got rid of all the food in the toilet that the worm was eating. That's what was happening. The worm was just a guy there at the buffet at Golden Corral. He had a lot of garbage to eat. He was going in because he was helping you. Like it's simple. And I've seen people like send me pictures of their stools, and I'm like, oh, they see this little worm, and I'm like, okay. So what about all the garbage that is right there in the stool that I'm looking at right now? You're not gonna focus on that, but you're gonna focus on the little worm that's there. What are we
I
doing?
passed
So
parasites and I didn't feel any better. I wonder, I honestly think sometimes when you do a parasite cleanse and you shouldn't be, and it's not the right time, you're actually causing more harm than good
Yes,
because the
there's
body,
actually
those parasites were serving the purpose.
yeah.
And then, you don't feel better actually
There
because
is
they were
a
doing,
there's research on that actually. There
yeah.
Liev mentioned that he sent to me some studies where they did a bunch of deworming experiments and they
Hmm.
found no instance where people actively got better gastrointestinally or emotionally, where they were literally taking worms out and people didn't get better. Now, why is that? Is because again, the worms are the garbage men. So if the guy comes in to eat the debris and you took him out, the debris again begins to accumulate. So you may not get better. That's why I believe that these herbal cleanses, the way they're helping potentially, is just by declogging the lymphatics, declogging the liver, the gut, so things don't accumulate. But again, you can do your herbal cleanse, that's fine. But if you're not going to change your environment, you're not going to change your habits, it's going to come back.
It's just going to keep coming back and it
Yeah.
cycles over and over again. Go ahead, Heather.
this reminds me of all the deworming they do of pets, and so that's a questionable
Yeah.
practice. But
Very questionable.
Yeah.
just a review. So in the pleomorphic cycle, Jacob, like there was the mold and then the fungus, and then was parasites at the end, or I just want to make sure, like you're saying, there are which are the ones that we have that come out of this cycle, and there's the bigger ones you say that are external. Can you
Yeah.
differentiate that again?
So all the external worms that I mentioned, they also are a part of this pleomorphic cycle. But this one here, I believe this chart was made by Naissance, so we didn't include the parasitic forms. The wormy forms, and I actually have a picture I'll show you right now. Those are called mycetes, Mychit, and thecites, I believe, Thecit. So those two forms are the ones that are routinely the wormy ones that we see in the gut and the blood. And those are the ones that we would call the Hellman species. But those aren't on this graph specifically.
We
I have the
literally grow our own worms.
correct. So this right here is a
Oh,
cool picture
wow.
from my friend, Dr. Mary, naturopathic doctor. She does the live blood stuff as well. So this was from a sample from someone who was chronically fatigued, very chronically ill, inflamed, all that stuff, all the good stuff. So right here, you can see right here, the little worms over here, right here,
Mm-hmm.
and right here. So the blood sample actually did not have these worms in it when she took them out. It was a dirty blood, really. So you had this debris build up over here. That's just garbage in the blood. The body's trying to process it. And you have, I believe, here the little spikes on the blood sample here. That's usually either older blood or sickly blood. But of
Mm.
course, to a virologist, that's a COVID-19 virion. Oh my God. So right here, so she saw this blood and it was sickly, but it didn't have any worms. She waited about 24 to 48 hours. She rechecked it under the microscope, and these worms started to come out of the blood sample. So this is kind of like an example of spontaneous generation, where the germs know intuitively what to do and how to reflect. So these
Mm-hmm.
worms here were very likely eating a lot of debris from the blood and heavy metals. So this right here would be your mycete, your thecete, whatever. And then these will then change back into fungal, bacterial, whatever the case is. So these were coming out directly, just completely spontaneously from the blood. So we do make our own worms. We do.
Wow.
These worms are not, of course, we can through eating raw foods, just inherit a lot of microbial activity in the ecosystem. And of course, when you're eating meats or vegetables too, you can get worms in your body from these things too. That's not saying I'm not saying you can't, but they're not the issue. And funny enough, a lot of and I don't know, you guys are vegan or vegetarian?
Mm-mm.
No,
Okay, thank God. Okay. so,
not at
so
all.
I mentioned that because I think this right over here, these studies showed that produce actually has a
Has
higher
more.
rate of
Oh, absolutely.
worms
Your lettuce is
than
going to have
meat.
more worms.
And
Yeah,
it's
I've
fun.
seen
And
it.
why? And why? Because it's coming from the soil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've
So it's
seen
like,
it. I've seen it in my romaine lettuce that I've gotten from my
yeah,
farm. And I don't
yeah,
mind. Like I'm just
yeah.
rinse
I
it
don't
off.
mind. Just
I'm
wash it off, or you want it, whatever. Do it. Do
yeah.
whatever you want to do with it. But it's like they push this idea that you can't eat meat because there's parasites in the meat. So eat your vegetables. But there's more parasites in the vegetables. So should we just not eat at all, or can we just shut up and eat whatever you want as long as it's real food?
Makes me think, Jacob, it's like if you're living a healthy lifestyle, you're gonna come across parasites, right? If you're walking
Yeah.
barefoot in nature, right? Right? Because people will tell me, I've had clients say to me that they don't want to earth because they're afraid of getting parasites. And I am like, the earthing is going to be so much more beneficial to you than worrying about the
Then the worm.
parasites.
And wait, how's the worm gonna even get in you?
I guess if they have a crack on their heel or
It's
something
like
like I don't know. Like I don't know, but I've actually heard this before, okay? This is actually true things that I've heard
Jesus.
from clients before in the past. And okay, that's where their level of understanding is fine. But if you're living a healthy lifestyle and you're outside in nature and you're walking barefoot and you're eating real foods from nature, you are going to be exposed to parasites. It is a
Yes.
normal process. Just like you're going to be exposed to mold and bacteria, but it's actually good for you to be
Exactly.
these things.
And
That's
there's been
yeah.
research done with parasites or symbiotites that are they actually modulate cancer growth, so they actually eat tumors.
Wow.
So you can use
Wow.
and you can also use
Say that
them
again.
too.
Can you say that one again?
They yeah, parasites eat tumors. Yeah, they
Wow.
modulate cancer growth. So this idea that they are cancer is ridiculous because they're eating the cancer. And there's
Wow.
actually various cases where people have used Hellman therapy,
Oh
where,
yeah.
where they treat irritable bowel syndrome, they treat type 1 diabetes, they treat arthritis with parasites
Wow. It's like
in
they're
their environment.
composters, right? You turn in all of the bad or so-called waste into good
Yeah,
stuff.
and you give it back to the
So,
environment.
so it sounds like you're just saying the symbiosis is an ongoing reality that
Yes.
we, if it's all working together harmoniously and it's in balance, is that what you're saying? That
Yeah,
we don't need to try to get rid of any of this stuff. We just always want to be improving our own voltage and enhancing our own vitality and so forth.
yeah,
Mhm.
pretty much. And if there's any a time where you have a lot of acute symptoms or chronic illnesses, that's when you go to people like me, like you guys, like Dr. Mary, where we can help you just release through various homeopathy, herbal, whatever. And two, just a really cheap one to do. Again, you mentioned it, grounding, sunlight, and fasting. Those are really three
Yes.
things that are just super simple to do. People, come on, it's free. That you can just easily allow your body to process a lot of things simply by doing those three. So
Mhm.
yeah.
this whole thing just makes me think of like that whole like stop the fear mongering really has to stop like the most like that's the big thing because we're so fearful of our own body symptoms, our own bodies, what's going on in our
Yeah,
bodies, right? And we're so fearful of even things in nature, like if we're afraid to go walk outside barefoot because of parasites, we need to be like not, the fear is driving the whole situation, really,
of
is that's the
course.
huge one, like all that fear, right? And just like be more trusting of your body and that your body's not against you, it's actually working for you, right?
Yeah,
Those symptoms are there to make you feel, to bring the body back to balance. Whatever that's imbalance, the body's trying to, it's morphing. It's trying to figure it out for you. Stop interfering.
yeah. Interfering, yeah, interfere. It's there.
Yeah,
Like we
interfering.
still have a lot in the natural space. There's a lot of after effects with the flexion report. We talked about this last time I
Yeah,
was on,
yeah,
where
yeah.
everything was a germ theory pharmaceutical model. We need to kill, 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 fight, fight, fight.
So
So they were able to infiltrate a lot of that stuff and change the mindset of these herbal, homeopathic institutions where
yeah.
everything has to be fight, fight, fear, fear, fear. So nowadays, in 2025, most people that practice these things are pushing the same exact fear that allopaths do, and it's not built in the DNA that doesn't even exist, Mike. So it's not built in the genetic material or in the energy of that practice. It's literally anti-naturopath, anti-homeopath to be fear inducing. It's directly against everything about terrain. Terrain is not something to be fearful of. It's something to understand that everything, as you said, Heather, it's symbiosis. Your body intuitively knows exactly what to do and will do exactly what it needs to do to heal the issue you're in. That's all it
Mm,
is. But we
mm,
put all of these labels, these made up diagnoses, and then we take these different drugs depending on what it is, and we don't get better, we get worse because the chart begins to go deeper and deeper to the right, and you
yes.
develop more chronic illness. That's all it is.
It's
And
really
that's
sad that when people think they're getting better, it's actually suppression.
it's
So
just
that's
suppression.
really dangerous and really tragic. And my goodness. Yeah,
And
we
there's
have definitely a
only
fear campaign with people putting all the hand sanitizers on
oh my
still.
god,
And
dude.
like I see these
No.
things all over the place, especially in the medical industry. And so it's
And
really
people are
sad.
masking still too now. A lot of
Yeah.
people are seeing masking, bro.
I
Come on.
haven't seen that, but wow.
And I tell people this like, and again I talk about the quote all the time where I think it was what was her name, the nurse, the very, and Florence Nightingale.
Oh yeah.
He said
Mm-hmm.
there's no specific diseases, there are only specific disease states, and it
Mm.
is my belief that there really aren't any other diseases besides toxicity, malnutrition, and some sort of injury plus emotional trauma. That's it. It's
Yeah,
really
that
four.
sounds like it covers it so
It
well.
covers that's all. That's just your four diseases, and then depending on what it is, like if it's in your gut, you're gonna have, some people say, IBS, candidiasis, H. pylori, SIBO. They're all the same diseases. When you actually get to the root and the symptoms, they're
Yeah,
all
those
pretty much
labels
the same.
mean nothing.
They mean nothing
They
because
mean
guess what?
nothing.
I'm gonna treat you the same exact way. It doesn't matter. We're gonna look at
Mhm.
your diet. We're gonna look at your emotions. We're gonna use some homeopathics and isopathics. We're gonna get to the root and we're gonna flush things out and have you get better. That's all it is. So these made up diagnoses get people just stumped in this idea that everything has to be a label, a drug, a germ theory paradigm, whatever. It's just
Yeah.
completely bass backwards.
Oh
Completely.
my God, yes, yeah. And I love it too when I get clients and they'll say to me like, I have this infection, right? Say it's
Mhm.
strep, right? And they were like, is this homeopathic remedy gonna get rid of the
Gonna
strep?
get rid of it. Yeah,
I'm like, that's not the idea. Like,
that's not what it's
actually,
doing.
the idea is to strengthen you and your terrain, right? So your body can go back to homeostasis. It is
Exactly.
not to get rid of anything. Because let's say, can homeopathy get rid of an infection? How does it get rid of a UTI? How does it get rid of, I'm like, that's not what we're doing. We're
No.
not making that claim ever. That's not what we want to do, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, and it's funny. I'll mention those two things specifically with the homeopathy. I can use streptococcus
Yeah.
for streptococcus bacteria in your throat, leading to a strep throat. But again, I'm using the energy from the disease to heal the
Yes.
disease. So it's actually, I'm using the germ in a funny way to help
Yeah,
heal
it's
the
true.
body with the germ, and the same germ, the streptococcus, that lives in your mouth at all times. So it cannot be the issue. And you mentioned UTIs. UTIs are actually one of my favorite things. I get a lot of clients, specifically females, that come to me with a lot of different UTI issues,
Mm.
and literally, I have yet to see something prove me wrong about this. But this chart over here, I love this acupuncture meridian chart. Every single time someone comes with a UTI, they are always dealing with some sort of kidney dysfunction or
Always.
anxiety issue. every
Oh,
single
absolutely. Because
time.
it's kidneys and it's fear
Yes.
and anxiety is related to the
Fear and
kidneys
anxiety
and
destroy
the
your
bladder.
kidneys, which are connected to your genital area, help with urine and all that. So when there's a stagnation, your bacteria innately know there is a stagnation, a lowering of voltage, a lot of toxicity. So they begin to eat the lining. You get a supposed infection. And when you reference the issue, which is actually your anxiety for the most part, and of course, drinking like food, water and cranberry juice and blackberry juice, blueberry, all that stuff is really good for you, just flushing things out. But if you get to the
Mhm.
anxiety problem, you're not gonna have UTIs anymore. So I've asked people like, yeah, I'm gonna give you some. What's the homeopathic remedy that I give people? I think it starts with
Antares?
no. It's a
Berber?
it's a combination remedy. It is. I am blanking. I'll remember it right when we finish recording.
Mm.
But Cantheris is actually it's in one of those remedies.
Yeah.
But I'll start with S. Damn it! What is it?
I don't know. I don't use combination wood, so I don't know. I always use a
Ooh, you
single.
know, interesting. We'll talk about it when.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I'll give them a combination remedy, and the issue will go away.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's great. Your acute issue is gone.
Yeah.
Now let's get to your anxiety. Why are you feeling anxiety? Why are you overthinking? Why are you so stressed? And then
You don't know my story, Jacob, but UTIs since I was 5 years old is my story. And then I had
mm,
interstitial cystitis, which is like
mm,
95% gone, but I am a very fear and anxiety person. So I
exactly.
know that
So
story.
at
Very
least you know.
perfectionistic, very OCD, very type A. All of these things compile into the reason why. And those are the real deep root issues that we really have to get to when something is so chronic, like I had since 5 years old, right?
Yeah,
It's nothing else besides that. It's
yeah,
those real deep blueprint issues.
exactly. Oh, there we go. It's Buco and Solidago.
Oh, I don't know
Those
that.
those two are good combination remedies that are really good for UTIs. But and again, it's not. I'm not treating the UTI as its own thing. Like it's a reflection, a downstream effect of something deeper. So yeah, I mean it's always connected, and when every time I check their teeth too, their teeth always tell. There's always
Mm,
something in the tooth that will connect it to the meridian, to the organ, to the energy.
yeah.
It's amazing. But yeah, disease is a deep process. Even the acute issues can be a deeper process depending on how it is. Of course, if you go outside and it's really really cold, low humidity, rainy, you may get a cold. That's fine. Your body is literally adapting to the changing environment, and that's why we're seeing it now here in New York. Like a lot of people are getting sick at the same time. Why is it? The weather is changing. It's getting a lot colder, not a lot of humidity. Your body will reflect the respiratory system because it's breathing different air, different quality. The respiratory system will reset. Just like you get an AC filter, you take out the AC filter, you wash it off, you put it back in. That is what your respiratory system is doing. It's getting rid of any excess mucus and just repairing itself for the wintertime. So if you
Yeah,
get,
it's very healthy for the body
it's
at the
very good
fall
for the body.
equinox with the at the fall equinox and the spring equinox to have acutes. It's like very normal
Yes,
and
it's
healthy.
very normal.
Yeah, it is. It's actually a good sign. And, we talked a little bit about that before with the acutes, how they prevent chronic disease. That's why one of my goals when I work with clients is to get acutes back, to get fevers
Hmm.
back. So they start having these things to actually be strong enough to actually remove and get rid of the things that are not serving them. And it's like those acutes, they've really served such a great purpose. And it's like we don't want to fear those either. But it's also, I was going to say, it's probably due to less time outside and more time inside.
Amen.
Yeah,
Yep.
that was my other thought. Yeah. Well, anything else you want to chat about, Jacob? This has been
I
amazing.
don't know.
I
Like
mean, like
I mean,
this
I
was
just
like
met you with you guys here. I have a homeopathy slide as well, just to
so
shout
cool.
out homeopathy. But I have German
Yeah.
new medicine, which is I'm iffy about German new medicine.
Oh
Kind of
yeah, yeah.
yeah. I'm like
Has a
I'm
new
on
name. I can
yeah.
never remember what the new name is, but when is your course going to launch again?
I have like two more slides I want to add, but it should be out. What is it, October 21st? Latest December.
How
Latest
many slides you got in here?
160.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so it's gonna be
Wow.
split. Like I'm gonna do 1 hour split, 1 hour split, 1 hour split, and
Yeah,
then
yeah,
people
yeah.
can digest it however they want.
This set sounds
Um,
amazing though,
yeah,
Jacob.
so it's
Such
like
great work.
just get it. It's like this will teach you more than any other college will. So hopefully people can enjoy it. But this is everything I learned, and like I want to give it back. Is that this is the paradigm. People need to learn. That's how.
Yeah,
And people don't want to do the work, but they have to.
yeah,
So yeah, I mean, like it's awesome stuff. I'm excited for it, and anytime people listening, watching have a question, feel free to text me, call me, email me, DM me, whatever. I love to be an open book for information, but
yeah.
hopefully doing this will stop a lot of those questions because I'm
Right.
just one guy. I don't have like an assistant. Like it's just me answering everything. So
Yes.
this will get to the really root of every single thing. I hopefully. that people can just start to answer for themselves, because even a good practitioner does not want you to rely on them, right? Like they want you to rely on
Yeah.
yourself, rely on
Bingo.
your own nature, your own body, and so that you don't have to call me every time you have a little sore throat. Like you
Yeah, we
know.
teach you, we guide you, so then you
Exactly.
can
It's a
figure that out.
horrible business model because we do if we're good, they're not coming back. So it's like
Yeah.
we got to figure
But
out a
then they
way.
tell their friends,
Yeah,
and
they'll
then
tell their friends, their
yeah,
sickly grandma, their friends, whatever. Yeah, and they always come back. So that is true.
yeah,
So you
100%.
have this course, you work one-on-one. You just mentioned you
Exactly.
had a recent conference, or what was it?
Oh yeah, so we had the Terrainology conference. That was a lot of different people in the Northeast that were very familiar with terrain and the new biology. Essentially, we had about 80 people show up. That was really cool. We want to do make it like a annual thing, hopefully,
Mm.
where we just get a team up. Andy Kaufman was there, Dr. Mary was there, the Billsons were there. Maybe next year the same people plus maybe Cowan can show up, Amanda Vollmer potentially. We'll see how that goes, and we just do different presentations, we do activities and workshops, we get to know each other, and that's the community, right? Just finding people that are of like-minded individuals and knowing that they're nearby too is really really cool.
Yeah.
And maybe next year, Vanessa, you can come too. Oh, hey.
I was like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, I can't believe I didn't even know about it. I
You
totally,
didn't? Damn, because I made so many posts. That's why I
oh my
know
God, I don't know
Instagram
how
is
I missed it.
freaking censoring me,
I,
because I made
well,
reels and posts and stuff, and it's like,
Do you send out emails,
I didn't
Jacob?
see
Vanessa,
that.
you got to
I
get on
don't.
these.
I know. I don't.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
maybe that
have to
would
at
be,
least send
I
out
have
emails
to.
for that.
yeah,
You're
let me
right.
know. Because I
But
totally
yeah,
missed it.
yeah.
Otherwise, I would have definitely tried to make it. I totally
Well,
missed it.
coming up, I think in April, I am going to go to Confluence too,
Oh yeah, I wish,
and I'm
yeah.
going to be speaking there as well. So
Oh yay.
seeing
What's it
people,
called?
Confluence,
Confluence.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
the one in Texas, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
Yeah,
yeah.
I'm going to be speaking there and
Nice.
just seeing people, interacting with people in the community. It's awesome, and
It's
that's what we
huge,
want. That's
yeah.
what we need. That's how you build the paradigm. You get that boost too. We talked about it offline. That boost, the energy you need, you get that from seeing people that are thinking just like you are. Terrain
Hmm.
isn't new. Terrain is a very old. It was before germ theory. It's before pharmaceuticals. We have it innately built into us what
yeah.
terrain is. We just have to get it out and just
Yeah.
find those people. And it's funny because even the people that are super pharmaceutical and sciencey, you get the right point across, they're gonna start to think, this guy might be right. Like this makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's really easy to understand, guys. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now, and keep it going.
All right. So where people,
Fantastic.
yeah, let people know where they can find you.
Of course, undercover virologist on Instagram, same on Telegram as well. And then my website, terrainuv.com, if you want to schedule a consultation and work with me one on one. And then, of course, through Terrain UV, I'm going to launch the course sometime either late November or early December. And then from there, people can absorb it however they want.
Oh, awesome, Jacob. This has been amazing. Thank you so much. We really
That's
appreciate
awesome.
you coming
I love
on.
this pod. I love you
Yeah,
guys. So
awesome. Thank
Thank
yeah.
you
you.
so
Love you
much. Yeah.
too.